Could Donald Trump's 10-day ultimatum to Putin really end the war in Ukraine? Republican Senator Lindsey Graham says the Kremlin has no idea what's coming. Then, the disturbing truth behind Russia's so-called processing of abducted Ukrainian children, a campaign of re-education and militarization and erasure. This is UATV English. Let's break it all down and put you in focus on these hot events. What if Trump's toughest stance yet on Russia isn't just talk, but a ticking clock? Republican Senator Lindsey Graham says Vladimir Putin has made a serious miscalculation by underestimating Trump's resolve on Ukraine. As a 10-day ultimatum to end the war begins to count down, allies and adversaries alike are watching closely. From Kyiv's response to the Kremlin's defiance, here's what really is at stake.
Those in Russia who believe that President Trump is not serious about stopping the Russian Federation's war against Ukraine are gravely mistaken. This was stated by Republican Senator Lindsey Graham on the social network X. His words were a response to Deputy Chairman of the Russian Security Council, Dmitry Medvedev, who claimed that shortening Donald Trump's ultimatum to 10 to 12 days is an escalation and allegedly a threat to the White House leader himself. Earlier, Graham reported that both parties in Congress support reducing the time frame of Donald Trump's ultimatum.
I completely understand President Trump's frustration with Russia's continued attacks on Ukraine, which indicates no real desire to come to the peace table. Putin has seriously miscalculated President Trump. I hope countries like China, India, and Brazil, who prop up Putin's war machine, are about to pay a long overdue price. Lindsey Graham, chair of the Senate Budget Committee, on X.
On July 28th, the U.S. president shortened the time frame of his 50-day ultimatum to Putin. Previously, Donald Trump had promised to impose 100% tariffs on Russia's trading partners if Moscow did not reach a peace agreement with Kyiv within that period. Now, due to the Kremlin's lack of response and continued shelling of Ukraine, the White House leader stated that Russia has 10 to 12 days starting from July 28th.
We thought we had that settled numerous times, and then President Putin goes out and starts launching rockets into some city like Kiev and kills a lot of people in a nursing home or whatever. You have bodies lying all over the street. And I say that's not the way to do it. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm very disappointed. I'm disappointed in President Putin. Very disappointed in him. So we're going to have to look, and I'm going to reduce that 50 days that I gave him to a lesser number because I think I already know the answer what's going to happen.
In Kyiv, Donald Trump's decision was welcomed. Head of the Ukrainian president's office, Andriy Yermak, thanked the White House leader, noting that Putin only understands the language of force. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stated that Kyiv remains committed to working with Washington on the swift cessation of the war.
An extremely significant statement by President Trump. And it's true, it is Russia that is doing everything to disrupt peace efforts and prolong this war. Every night, strikes, constant Russian attempts to hurt Ukraine. Indeed, peace is possible if we act strongly and decisively. And we have said more than once, and all partners know that sanctions are a key element. Russia takes sanctions into account, considers such losses.
In the Kremlin, they stated that they took note of the shortened time frame of Donald Trump's deadline and responded that they have no intention of stopping the war. Western media believe that the ultimatum is unlikely to force the Russian dictator to sit down at the negotiating table. Articles in Sky News, CNN, The Times, and The Telegraph claim that Moscow does not take such deadlines seriously. Analysts from the Institute for the Study of War are convinced that Putin has gone too far to stop everything in a matter of weeks.
Putin is unlikely to make any concessions in his war aims unless he is forced to do so by significant Ukrainian battlefield victories, as any negotiated end to the war that does not achieve all of Putin's objectives would call into question the success and, potentially, wisdom of Russia's military campaign in Ukraine from a publication by the Study of War.
100% tariffs on Moscow's trading partners will hit China, India, and Turkey the hardest, analysts believe. The losses will push importers of Russian energy resources to seek alternatives to the Kremlin, which will lead to a reduction in budget revenues for the aggressor country. According to CNN, 80 out of 100 members of the U.S. Senate are ready to support the tariff bill. Reported by Andriy Dmitrenko, UATV News.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
Russia claims it has fully processed a list of abducted Ukrainian children, and yet evidence shows otherwise. Only a fraction of the names submitted by Kyiv received any response. behind this facade of cooperation lies a brutal reality. Ukrainian children taken from orphanages and occupied territories are being re-educated, militarized, and in some cases, conscripted into the Russian army. The Kremlin's strategy isn't just about war, it's about erasing identity, and the world must not look away. Let's break it down.
Russia provided only partial information on less than a fifth of the children from the initial list submitted by Ukraine, stated Andriy Yermak, head of the Ukrainian president's office. He noted that Kyiv expects a complete and substantive response regarding every child abducted by Russian occupiers. Russia's claims that the list has been fully processed are a lie.
The initial list of 339 names was provided by Ukraine in Istanbul as a trust-building measure. The response received from the Russian side to date is fragmentary. Only partial information has been provided on less than a fifth of the children from the initial list. Regarding more than 200 children, including those from the Kherson Children's Home, there has been no response whatsoever. The claim of fully processing the list is, to put it mildly, not true. Andriy Yermak, head of the office of the President of Ukraine, on Telegram.
The Russian side also claims that some children have already been returned to Ukraine. This refers only to 6 children who returned home thanks to Qatar's mediation, clarified the Ukrainian president's office. As for the children from the Oleshki orphanage, illegally deported by Russia, the fact that some of them have reached adulthood does not negate Moscow's crime.
Their forcible transfer is a serious violation of international humanitarian law. Reaching the age of 18 does not negate the fact of a war crime being committed and does not deprive these individuals of the right to return home. Andriy Yermak, head of the office of the President of Ukraine, on Telegram.
The initial list provided by Kyiv to Moscow contains only 300 names. Since 2014, Russian occupiers have forcibly removed tens of thousands of children from Ukraine.
1.6 million Ukrainian children are still living in the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine. Every minute, as we speak, the abductions continue. So far, we have managed to return 1,400 children. But this is just a small drop in the ocean. Mariana Betsa, Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, from the speech at the Strasbourg conference, The Situation of Ukraine's Children, Council of Europe Action.
According to independent researchers, about 95% of deported Ukrainian children are first sent to so-called re-education camps. In their teenage years, they are sent to military training institutions. The Humanitarian Research Lab has already identified 116 different locations in Russia, up to its Pacific coast, where Ukrainian children are being held.
The mobilization and militarization is something that's happening in occupied territory, but the deportation and transfer, Russia is something separate. While a lot of these children are then militarized and sent off to very militarized and re-education camps, the militarized education of girls is aimed at erasing their Ukrainian identity. So when girls are transferred and deported and sent to camps, the goal of that re-education is to erase their Ukrainian identity.
Russia forces abducted Ukrainian children, upon reaching the age of 18, to join the army and fight against their own country.
Forcing Ukrainians to fight serves 2 Kremlin goals: addressing the shortage of manpower in the Russian army and a harsh form of new psychological warfare against Ukrainians. The latter is allegedly an order from the Russian dictator Putin himself. The exact number of Ukrainians conscripted into the Russian army is unknown, but it could involve thousands, from a publication by The Times.
The American magazine Time featured a cover story in its July 2025 issue about how Russian occupiers abduct Ukrainian children from territories temporarily occupied by Russia. The article's author, Simon Schuster, reminded that in March 2023, the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for Putin for the illegal deportation of Ukrainian children. As a result, the Russian dictator risks arrest in each of the 125 countries recognizing the court's jurisdiction, including all South American states, nearly all European countries, and about half of African states, reported by Kristina Dombrovska, UATV News.
Trump's warning may shift global pressure, but it won't stop the war alone. Meanwhile, Russia's brutal child deportation tactics continue to expose its true intent. Drop your thoughts and predictions on these developments below. And always stay in focus with UATV English.
Subscribe to UATV English and stay updated on the most important events, top news from Ukraine and all over the world, in-depth analysis, exclusive reports and interviews, all on hand in our channel. Join our community of viewers and stay tuned.